Do you know what sets apart the one who owns the room from the one who goes unnoticed? It's not talent. It's not luck. It's the confidence in their walk. That presence that makes everyone turn, makes everyone listen. But here comes the hard truth. If you don't build that confidence, no one's going to take you seriously. And the worst part, neither will you. In this video, you're going to discover how to unlock a stoic kind of confidence, one that leaves a mark, transforms you, and gives you back control. It's not magic, and it's not a gift reserved for a chosen few. It's mental training, it's clarity, it's a choice. Today, I'm going to show you how the Stoics developed a presence so grounded that even chaos couldn't shake them. And the best part is, you can do it too. If you stick around, you'll learn how to become that person who radiates confidence, even on their darkest days. But before we dive in, tell me this: how long have you been hiding your strength out of fear that you're not enough? If that question hits something in you, it means it's time to change that. Subscribe and join this community to start building the kind of confidence you've always wanted. And tell me in the comments, what part of yourself have you been dimming for way too long? Or just write, "Today, I start awakening my power." All right, get ready, because what's coming might completely change the way you see yourself. 1. Find the root of your insecurity. Picture this. You walk into a room with your backpack slung over your shoulder, car keys in one hand, phone in the other. You lift your head and notice 3 people watching you. One turns away when they see you, another whispers something, and the third just stares blankly. They haven't said anything, they haven't done anything, but your mind's already racing. They're judging me. They probably think I don't belong here. That voice doesn't come from what's happening around you. It comes from what's happening inside. It's like your mind has a faulty smoke detector, one that blares at the slightest bit of heat, even when there's no fire. That alarm is your insecurity. And if you don't learn how to shut it off, it'll make decisions for you before you even get the chance to act. Epictetus summed it up in one sentence that could change your life. It's not things that disturb us, but our opinion about things. And no, this isn't just a nice quote for an inspirational post. It's a reminder that the real problem is never what's happening out there, but how your mind interprets it in here. Insecurity rarely starts out big. Sometimes it begins with a comment someone made at school, an unfair comparison, or a mistake that made you feel small. But over time, each little hit adds another brick to an invisible wall, and without realizing it, you're now carrying around a mental barrier that keeps you stuck. The Stoics understood one essential truth: the key is knowing what's in your control and what isn't. That was their most powerful tool. And if you think about it, insecurity is the exact opposite. It's spending all your energy on what's out of your hands. You worry about how people look at you, what they'll think, whether you'll mess up. And while you're focused on that, you ignore what is in your control. Your preparation, your mindset, your choices. It's like trying to steer a boat by watching the wind instead of grabbing the rudder. Now think about your own life. I'm sure this has happened to you. You send in a project at work and no one replies. Your mind jumps to, "They're ignoring me." You post something online and it doesn't get many likes. Your brain says, "I'm not good enough." Someone doesn't say hi in the street, and you assume, "They don't like me." In all those cases, there's no real evidence, just your interpretation. And the worst part? Those interpretations start shaping your decisions. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that hits like a hammer. If something external troubles you, it's not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment of it. And you have the power to erase that judgment. In other words, what weakens you isn't what happens. It's the story you tell yourself about what happens. And if you can change the story, you can change everything. So how do you do it? First, you need to start seeing your thoughts for what they are. Just thoughts, not absolute truths. Here's a simple Stoic exercise. Take a piece of paper and make 2 columns. One for what's under your control and one for what isn't. For a whole week, every time you feel insecurity creep in, put it in the right column. Can you control what others think of you? No, of course not. Can you improve your skills? Yes. Can you choose how to respond? Absolutely. Little by little, you'll start realizing that most of your worries were sitting in the wrong column. Another useful tool is what psychotherapist Donald Robertson calls cognitive distancing. Every time an insecure thought pops up, replace "I'm a failure" with "I'm having the thought that I'm a failure." It might seem like a tiny shift, but it puts you in the driver's seat. You're no longer trapped by the voice, you're observing it. You can also create what I call daily micro-victories. Pick one small action each day that proves your capability. Prepare a presentation more thoroughly, practice speaking for just 2 minutes, or finish a task you've been putting off. Each time you do, you're stacking up evidence that challenges the story your insecurity keeps trying to tell. My friend, building unshakable, dangerous self-confidence isn't about ignoring fear. It's about no longer obeying it. Every time you act despite the doubt, you're showing your mind who's really in charge. Every time you focus on what you can control, you're laying a foundation no outside force can tear down. So now I've got a question for you. Are you going to keep letting that old smoke detector go off every time you take a step forward? Or are you going to shut it down and start building brick by brick the most confident version of yourself? Because that version doesn't depend on anyone else's judgment. It depends only on the story you choose to tell yourself from today on. 2. Keep your mind in check. Picture Marcus Aurelius living in our time, phone in hand. He opens YouTube, reads a hateful comment, and nothing. No drama, no outrage. He just thinks, judgments, not facts, and moves on with his day. That's how he lived, never letting other people's opinions dictate how he felt. Now tell me, how many times have you done the exact opposite? One message left unread, a weird look from someone, a small mistake, and your mind's already spinning a 3-season drama. The truth is simple. Your biggest enemy isn't what's happening out there. It's the voice inside your head. The one that won't shut up, that twists things, blows them out of proportion and plays the worst-case scenario on repeat. The one that doesn't need evidence to tell you that you're not good enough. Marcus Aurelius made it crystal clear. If something external causes you pain, it's not the thing itself, but your judgment of it. And you can revoke that judgment right now. That sentence should be engraved in your mind, like an alarm that goes off every time your inner voice spirals out of control. Because let's be honest, your mind has a nasty habit of making up stories. You mess up a presentation and suddenly it's not, "I slipped up today." It's, "I'm useless." Someone doesn't reply to your message and instead of, "Maybe they're busy," it's, "I'm not worth their time." And if you don't shut that voice down, it will end up becoming your reality. You might be wondering, why do we do this? Because we've handed over the steering wheel to our mind. It's like having a parrot in your house and feeding it awful phrases every day. You're useless, you're not good at anything. You always mess up. At first, the parrot just listens, but over time, it starts repeating exactly what it hears, even when you didn't ask. And the funny thing is, the owner gets mad. Why is my parrot so negative? Well, what did you expect? You trained it yourself. Your mind works the same way. That critical voice didn't show up out of nowhere. You've been teaching it how to speak without realizing it. And here's the good news. If you trained it to talk like that, you can teach it a new language. So, what if you kept it in check? Is that even possible? Let me tell you something, my friend. Being kind to yourself doesn't make you weak, it makes you stronger. Because that mental whip doesn't make you grow, it just paralyzes you. On the other hand, recognizing that failure is part of being human gives you the strength to keep going. Now picture this. You're giving a presentation, and your mind goes blank. That voice screams, "You're terrible at this." Stop right there, breathe, read the first line of your notes, start again. That one small action teaches your mind that it doesn't get the final word. Another example, you send a message and get no reply. Instead of drowning in, "I'm not enough," send one polite follow-up and move on to your next step, whatever brings you closer to your goal. The Stoics taught that we must separate facts from judgments, and that's still one of the most powerful tools we have. How do you do that? Try the experiment psychologist Ethan Kross talks about. Speak to yourself in the second or third person. Saying, "Come on, Laura, you've got this," is way more effective than just, "I can do it." It sounds small, but it's the difference between being the passenger and being the driver. It gives you back control. And it's not magic, it's perspective. The more distance you create from the emotion, the less control it has over you. You can even narrate your situation like a neutral observer. Pedro feels his heart racing. He decides to pause and take a deep breath. By doing this, you break the fusion with your thoughts and regain your power. You can also build what I call your mental SOS kit. Every time that inner critic kicks in, respond with one kind phrase and one specific action. For example, "It's human to mess up, but now I choose to move forward." Then do something that proves it. Rewrite that email. Try again. Take a step. The key is to act before the thought turns into a story. Because in the end, building strong, grounded confidence isn't about getting rid of the critical voice. It's about showing it who's in charge. It's about no longer believing every thought that crosses your mind, and starting to use your mind as a tool, not a judge. So next time that voice starts yelling, remember this. You're not the parrot, you're the trainer. You can turn the volume down. You can change the script, and you get to decide which story gets told. The mind is like a radio full of static. At first it distorts everything, but if you learn how to tune it, the signal gets clearer and clearer. And with each adjustment, you get one step closer to that version of yourself that walks with so much confidence. Nothing, absolutely nothing can stop them. 3. Break the beliefs that are holding you back. Imagine this. You're running with everything you've got, pushing forward, but something's slowing you down. You don't know what it is until you turn around and see a rope tied around your waist. At the other end, there's a massive anchor you've been dragging without even realizing it. You're moving, yes, but every step takes triple the effort. That rope, it's your limiting beliefs, old thoughts that made decisions for you a long time ago. And even though they don't make sense anymore, they're still calling the shots, still deciding what you can and can't do. As Marcus Aurelius said, our life is what our thoughts make it. If your thoughts are an anchor, your life will always feel like you're dragging weight behind you. But if you choose to turn them into tools, they'll stop holding you back and start driving you forward. Limiting beliefs don't come from truth. They come from pain. From that time someone rejected you, and you took it to mean, "I'm not worth it." From a failure you turned into, "This isn't for me." From one mistake you labeled as, "I'm a disaster." They weren't facts, they were interpretations. But over time they stopped being passing thoughts and became part of your identity. You don't say, "I made a mistake," anymore. You say, "This is just who I am." And when it gets to that point, every future action starts bending to fit the story. But here's the truth, that story can be rewritten. Let me show you with an example. Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, was told for years that her ideas were ridiculous, that she had no experience and that she was bound to fail. She could have believed every word. She could have given up before even trying. But instead, she redefined the meaning. If they're laughing, it's because they don't get it yet. That one shift in interpretation changed her entire future. Today she's a billionaire, not because the world believed in her, but because she stopped believing the lies that were holding her back. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explains it like this. The brain doesn't look for truth, it looks for consistency. If you believe you can't do something, your brain will work overtime to find evidence that proves it. And here's the dangerous part. It'll do it automatically, without you even realizing. That's why so many people stay stuck in the same place for years. Not because they lack talent, not because they can't, but because their mind already decided there's no point in trying. And maybe that's happening to you. Maybe you grew up hearing art won't pay the bills, so now you don't dare to pursue what you love. Maybe you failed a math class once, and now you avoid any job that involves numbers. Maybe one breakup convinced you that no one will ever love me. All of those are old phrases, outdated ideas you're still obeying as if they were universal laws. Let me offer you something. Become the judge of your own thoughts. Imagine that every sentence your mind throws at you has to go through a courtroom. I'm not good at this. I'll never make it. I'm not enough. Now, you're not the accused. You're the judge. Where's the evidence? What proof backs that statement? Most of the time, once you start questioning them, those thoughts fall apart like fake witnesses. They're old opinions, not present-day facts. Write them all down, no filter, like witness statements in a trial. Then, right next to each one, write your verdict, a reinterpreted version that's more accurate, more honest. I'm not good at speaking becomes, I'm learning to communicate better every day. It may seem small, but changing the sentence changes the action. And step by step, you stop obeying thoughts that never deserve the final word. My friend, remember what Seneca said. The greatest slavery is to be a slave to oneself. And that's exactly what happens when your thoughts have more power than you do. True freedom begins the moment you decide to challenge them, to stop walking the path others drew with their opinions, and start creating your own. Breaking your limiting beliefs isn't optional. It's necessary because as long as you obey them, you'll keep moving forward with the handbrake on. But when you tear them down, each step gets lighter and every goal feels closer. That's the difference between living in fear and living with purpose. So think carefully. Which phrases are still making decisions for you without your permission? Write them down, challenge them, and change them. And if you're ready to commit to the shift, leave this sentence in the comments. Today, I cut the rope. Because the moment you do, every step you take will bring you closer to that dangerously confident version of yourself, the one no one and nothing can stop. 4. Let go of the outcome and keep moving. Have you ever noticed how your mood suddenly shifts when no one replies to that message you sent with excitement? Or how your motivation collapses when that project you poured your heart into doesn't turn out the way you imagined? Why is it that something meant to be a step forward ends up feeling like a test of your worth? But listen to what Ryan Holiday says. Our ambition shouldn't be focused on winning, but on playing with everything we've got. That's the difference between someone who gives up after a disappointing outcome and someone who builds unshakable confidence. It's all about where they place their focus. Think about this. You upload your first video full of hope, you edit it with care, you share it expecting the world to see it, and it gets just 3 views. And instead of focusing on what you learned or what you could improve, your mind goes straight for the attack. I'm not cut out for this. No one wants to hear from me. I should just quit. That voice isn't describing reality. It's exposing your need for approval. And the more you cling to the result, the more control it has over you. The Stoics saw this with absolute clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "To begin is half the work. Begin again with the remaining half, and you will have finished." Because the real value of what you do isn't in the reaction it gets, but in the simple act of daring to start and having the courage to keep going. When you focus on the process instead of the result, your brain starts to see every failure as a stepping stone. But if you measure everything by instant success, even the smallest setback feels like a threat to who you are. And when your identity is under threat, fear takes over and action freezes. Imagine this. You go to a job interview. You've prepared every detail, you give it your best, and still you don't get the job. You can either spend days blaming yourself for the result, or you can remember that your job was to show up prepared and confident. What happened after that was never in your hands. It's like shooting an arrow. Your responsibility is to pull the string, aim with intention, and release. But the wind, that's out of your control. And if you let your fear of the wind stop you, you'll never shoot again. So if you want to stop feeling small every time something doesn't go the way you expected, you need to shift your focus. Start by asking yourself one simple question before taking action. What part of this is under my control? And once you have the answer, stick to that. Let go of the rest. If you need a concrete plan, try this. Create a process journal and use it for 2 weeks. Every day, instead of writing down the results, record the actions you took. Not how many likes you got, but how many times you posted. Not whether you got chosen, but how many times you tried. Over time, you'll notice something powerful. Real satisfaction doesn't come from applause. It comes from consistent, quiet progress. You can also try what I call the repetition challenge. Pick one thing that makes you insecure, something that scares you, and do it every day for 1 week. Don't track the outcome. Don't worry about success, just do it. Whether it's recording videos, talking to strangers, or applying for jobs, the point isn't how many wins you get. It's about training your mind to act without waiting for a reward. Seneca captured it perfectly. The reward for a good deed is having done it. If you can truly internalize that idea, you stop acting out of fear or desperation for approval. You start moving because it's who you are, because it aligns with your values, not with other people's reactions. And once your actions stop depending on the outcome, every attempt becomes a victory. Because here's the truth: the result does not define your worth. A rejection doesn't. A number doesn't. Silence doesn't. What truly defines you is your ability to keep moving, even when no one is watching. And once you master that, once you stop needing applause to move forward, nothing, absolutely nothing, outside of you can stop you. 5. Change the image you have of yourself. Imagine that every morning you look into a distorted mirror, one that magnifies your flaws, shrinks your achievements, and warps everything good about you. At first, you question it, but over time, you stop resisting it, and you end up believing that's your real reflection. Now imagine that on the other side of that mirror stands Marcus Aurelius, quietly observing. He doesn't see someone weak or limited. He sees someone who could forge an unshakable inner strength, if only they stopped defining themselves by their fears. That mirror is your self-image, the mental picture you have of who you are. And as long as you don't change it, you'll keep acting like the smaller version of yourself you see reflected. Think about these words from Marcus Aurelius: "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." And no, he didn't say it as a pretty quote to frame on a wall. He said it as a warning. Because if you repeat to yourself every day that you're not enough, your life will become a reflection of that lie. That's how the mind works. It turns thoughts into actions and actions into habits. If the thought is small, you will shrink to match it. Now ask yourself, how many times have you held yourself back because of the image you carry of yourself? Maybe you grew up hearing that you're just not good with numbers, and now you avoid any decision involving money. Or maybe someone once told you that you don't have charisma, and now you stay quiet in meetings, too afraid to speak up. These phrases, tossed out years ago, seemingly harmless, stuck to you like labels. And the sad part is, they weren't truths, just opinions you decided to believe. Psychology has been proving this for decades. Psychologist Nathaniel Branden described self-concept as a kind of behavioral thermostat. If your mind believes you can only go so far, it will sabotage any attempt to go beyond that point. Don't you see it? You haven't failed because of a lack of ability. You failed because your mental identity isn't aligned with the success you want. If deep down you still see yourself as weak, you'll act like someone weak, even if you have everything it takes to succeed. Let me tell you a story that makes this crystal clear. Arnold Schwarzenegger said that when he was a teenager and told people his dreams, they laughed in his face. Becoming a bodybuilding champion, a Hollywood actor, a politician, it all sounded impossible. But he didn't need them to believe it. He had already believed it himself. He saw himself as that person long before the world ever did. Every decision he made, every habit he formed, every step he took was aligned with that identity. And eventually, reality had no choice but to catch up. The Stoics were absolutely clear about this. The self isn't defined by what others think of you. It's defined by what you choose to do each day. If Seneca lived today, he wouldn't be obsessed with how many followers he had on social media. He'd be focused on living by his principles. For them, your worth never came from external opinions. It came from the character you built through your actions. So, do you want to build a kind of self-confidence so solid that nothing can shake it? You already know the answer. You have to start by changing the image you have of yourself. And this isn't about reciting empty affirmations in front of the mirror. It's about building evidence. Start by creating a Stoic contract. Write down on paper the kind of person you want to be, disciplined, brave, consistent, and read it every morning. Then create small pieces of proof that reinforce that new identity. If you want to see yourself as someone fit, go for a walk every day. If you want to see yourself as someone productive, spend 20 focused minutes a day working without distraction. And most importantly, change your language. Don't say, "I want to be disciplined." Say, "I'm someone who keeps their word." The words you use to talk about yourself aren't innocent. They're instructions to your mind. Marcus Aurelius understood this. What you repeat daily becomes what you do, and what you do becomes who you are. If you repeat insecurity, you'll live in insecurity. If you repeat strength, you'll begin to act with strength. So remember this. You can't build dangerous, rock-solid confidence if you keep seeing yourself as fragile. Change the mirror. Change the story you're telling yourself. Because when you stop seeing yourself as small, you'll start acting big. And when that happens, nothing outside of you can define who you are or stop what you're capable of achieving. 6. Act even when you're not ready. Most people wait until they feel ready to begin. But the uncomfortable truth is, that moment never really comes. There's always a "not yet," a "when I have more money," a "when I know more." And meanwhile, the months pass, opportunities slip away, and life stays exactly where it is, stuck. The perfect moment doesn't exist. And if you keep waiting for it to show up, you'll also keep waiting for your life to begin. But tell me, do you really think a Stoic would sit around waiting to feel ready? Or would they get out there and take action with whatever they had right now? Seneca made it crystal clear. While we wait to begin, life passes us by. And he was right. The Stoics didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't waste time imagining hypothetical scenarios. They stepped onto the battlefield with whatever they had at hand, and they improved along the way. Because what shapes character isn't endless planning, it's the action you repeat even when your mind screams that you're not ready. Think about it. Every time you put something off until you're ready, you reinforce the belief that right now, you're not. And with each delay, your confidence takes another hit. Picture this. You've been thinking about starting your own business for years. You have the name, the concept, even the logo. But you never take the leap because you still don't know enough. You don't have savings, or it's just not the right time. Every excuse seems reasonable, but behind each one is fear. Fear of not measuring up, fear of failing. And in the meantime, you stay in the same place dreaming about a life that never begins. But you don't need to look that far to see the pattern. Think about that person you know, the one who got tired of their job and finally jumped into their personal project without having everything perfectly mapped out. Maybe they didn't have a financial safety net or a flawless plan, but they jumped. And that leap is what forced them to grow, to adapt, to find opportunities that wouldn't have shown up any other way. The Stoics saw the world exactly like that. If Epictetus lived today, and he heard someone say, "I can't start going to the gym because I don't have good shoes," he'd probably say, "Start barefoot. What matters is that you begin." Because the essential thing isn't how you start, it's that you start at all. My friend, if you want to build a kind of confidence so powerful no one can stop you, you have to stop waiting to feel ready. Ask yourself, what can I do today, even if it's small, that moves me closer to where I want to be? Don't underestimate the power of small action. The 5% rule works. If you want to write a book, write a single page. If you want to run a marathon, run for 5 minutes. If you want to start a business, create a profile and post your first product. Dare to put imperfect versions of your ideas out into the world. The Stoics believed perfection doesn't exist. What exists is progress. Publish, improve, repeat. And every time your mind tells you, "not yet," create what I call a leap ritual. Do something, anything, that moves in the opposite direction of that voice. That tiny action teaches your brain not to obey fear. Seneca left you with another reminder worth repeating. Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life. Because every day you choose to act without feeling ready, you reclaim ground from your insecurities. Every imperfect step you take today becomes the confidence you'll walk with tomorrow. And when you understand that, you realize true readiness doesn't come from books or perfect plans. It comes from the courage to begin, even when nothing feels ideal. So now I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. What project, dream, or decision have you been putting off because you're waiting for the right time? Write it in the comments and commit to taking one first step today, no matter how small, to prove to yourself that you don't need to be ready to begin. 7. Discipline yourself or fail. Imagine that your self-confidence is like a bank account. Every time you follow through on your word, you make a deposit. Every time you betray yourself with an excuse, you make a withdrawal. And while it may seem small, every withdrawal weakens the foundation your confidence stands on. The problem is, most people want to walk through life with massive self-trust, but their account is in the red. This is exactly where the Stoics had such a clear vision. Discipline isn't something you talk about, it's something you prove. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly, stop debating what it means to be a good man. Be one. In other words, stop planning for the perfect moment. Stop preparing the ground over and over again, and start building proof through action. Because in the end, your mind doesn't trust your intentions. It trusts your track record. The real saboteur of self-confidence isn't failure. It's the lack of discipline. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," and don't, your mind receives a dangerous message. I can't trust myself. And it echoes. At first, it's quiet, but over time, it becomes a truth that quietly influences every choice you make. Think about something as simple as this. You promise yourself you'll read 10 pages a day. You do it on day 1 and again on day 2. But on the third day, you're tired and you say you'll catch up later. By the end of the week, the book is still sitting on your nightstand collecting dust. That seemingly harmless decision sends a direct message to your brain. What I say doesn't matter. And it shows up again when you cancel your workout, when you put off that project, or when you swear you'll stop scrolling your phone and keep scrolling anyway. In the end, it's not the big failures that rob you of confidence. It's the small acts of inconsistency. Kobe Bryant understood this better than anyone. He was famous for his brutal discipline, waking up at 4 in the morning to train while the rest of the world slept. He didn't do it because he loved early mornings. He did it because every session was a vote of confidence in himself. Every day he kept his promise. His mind received a crystal clear message. I can count on me in any circumstance. That repetition, day after day, made him one of the most relentless athletes in history. His confidence wasn't built on talent, it was built on proof. The Stoics called this self-mastery, and they believed it was the highest form of freedom. Seneca said it powerfully. A man who masters himself is more powerful than one who conquers a city. Because mastering yourself means being able to trust yourself, even when no one's watching, even when there's no reward. It means knowing that no matter what's happening outside, there's solid ground inside. So my friend, if you want to stop doubting yourself every time life gets hard, start building that inner proof today. Choose 2 small habits and make them non-negotiable. Stick to them even on your worst days. Create a visible commitment. Tell someone what you're going to do and ask them to hold you to it. Sometimes external pressure can help build internal strength. And take on the Stoic challenge of useless effort. Do something every day that you don't feel like doing, not for the result, but for the mental muscle you're developing. Make discipline your habit, not the exception. It's waking up when staying in bed would be easier. It's keeping the promise when no one's forcing you. It's saying, I'll do this, and doing it. Each of those actions is a brick, and the more you build, the higher the wall of your inner security rises. Make it the foundation of your identity. Because every time you do what you said you'd do, even when no one sees it, you're making a deposit into that invisible account. And the more that balance grows, the harder it is for doubt to empty it. 8. Get out of your comfort zone now. Picture a powerful man in ancient Rome surrounded by luxury, servants at his beck and call, and every comfort imaginable. He could have stayed there, indulging in ease until the end of his days, but he didn't. Sometimes he slept on the floor. Sometimes he walked long distances without supplies. He even practiced voluntary fasting. He wasn't crazy. He was Seneca, one of the most influential men of his time, and he did it for one reason. He knew that if comfort became his refuge, it would also become his prison. Because in the end, what good is having everything if you're not in control of yourself? That's exactly what Epictetus meant when he said, "No man is free if he is not master of himself." And that phrase hits even harder when you realize that comfort is one of the most subtle chains that can bind you. It tricks you into thinking you're doing fine, when in truth, you're stuck. That's why the Stoics chose to step out of ease on purpose. They fasted. They trained their minds and bodies. They faced the cold, not as punishment, but because they understood that every discomfort forged strength of character. Comfort is dangerous because it doesn't hurt. It doesn't sound any alarms. It convinces you that this is good enough, while the years slip by and your potential falls asleep. And when you finally want to move, you no longer have the strength. That silent routine drains your confidence day by day, because if you never face challenges, you never prove to yourself what you're truly capable of. And if you never prove it, how will you ever believe in yourself when the real test comes? Think about this. Maybe you've stayed in a job you hate for years because it feels safe, or in a relationship that doesn't fulfill you because at least you're not alone. Maybe you've dreamed of starting a project but keep telling yourself, now's not the right time. Each one of those decisions seems small, but every single one reinforces the same message: better not to risk it. And that message, repeated daily, slowly kills the fire inside you. David Bowie understood this perfectly. He changed his musical style over and over, even at the height of his fame. Each transformation was a leap into the unknown, a risk. But it was also a way of continuing to grow, of challenging his own limits. His constant evolution didn't just keep his career alive, it strengthened his self-confidence. Because nothing builds deeper trust than proving to yourself that you can reinvent and keep moving forward. My friend, it's time to start stepping out of that comfortable little shelter you've built for yourself. And you don't need to do it with some huge leap. You can begin with small jolts. Change your routine on purpose. Take a different route to work. Strike up a conversation with someone new. Sign up for something you'd normally never consider. Train your mind to tolerate the unknown. You can also try what the Stoics called voluntary discomfort. One day a month, go without anything non-essential. No transport, no tech, no comforts. You'll find that you can live with far less than you thought, and that once you strip away what's easy, your real strength starts to show. Seneca said, "The soul becomes stronger through adversity." Don't wait for life to force you out of your comfort zone. Do it yourself. Make it a habit. Make discomfort part of your routine. Because every time you choose the hard path, you're sending a powerful message to your mind. I can handle this. And when that message is repeated every day, it transforms into a confidence that no external event can shake. Leaving your comfort zone isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. If you stay where you are, you'll remain who you've always been. But if you dare to go further, you'll realize your limits were far more flexible than you ever imagined. And with every step you take beyond what's familiar, you'll be building that dangerously solid confidence, one no one and nothing can break. My friend, you've already landed the first blows against fear, doubt, and excuses. You've understood that confidence isn't something you find, it's something you build. But if you want all of this to truly change your life, there's still one final piece. The one that no one sees, but changes everything. How you think through every step you take. The confidence you're looking for won't appear overnight like magic. It's built, thought by thought, step by shaky step, promise by quiet promise. even when no one's watching. It's not about becoming someone who impresses the world. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need anyone's approval to move forward. That's the kind of self-confidence that doesn't crumble under criticism and doesn't dim when fear shows up. That's the kind of strength that makes sure nothing outside of you can ever define who you are. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "Today, I choose to be dangerously confident." The fact that you've made it to the end says a lot about your commitment to yourself. And that's what builds real strength, day by day. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you know someone who needs this message, share it with them. Click the videos on screen and let's keep walking this path together.